Here.
Mark Berry.
Here.
Steve Balich. Amanda Cook. Here. Jacqueline Trainier. Rachel Ventura. Present. Tom Weigel.
Here. Remember, you could please stand for the pledge. Amanda, if you want to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up on our agenda is approval of minutes for March 2nd. There's a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next up, we have new business. First up is zoning case ZC-19-003, which is a special use permit for landscaping and lawn maintenance business in Manhattan Township, commonly known as 16540 West Sweetler Road in Manhattan, Illinois. If you want to give us the rundown really quick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zoning case ZC 19-003, as you mentioned, takes place in Manhattan Township. The applicants are the Scott R. Blackwood Living Trust and the Lori L. Blackwood Living Trust, where each Scott Blackwood and Lori Blackwood are 50% beneficiary of each living trust. They are looking to bring their existing landscaping business into compliance with the Will County zoning ordinance. The parcel is roughly 5 acres. It's legal non-conforming, and a special use will apply to the entire parcel, as well as be transferable to future property owners. Staff discovered that the business was operating out of the 2 pole buildings on the property back in 2016, and further research discovered it started about 2002. Part of the improvements made to the property consists of a 35-space parking lot, the addition of 12 company vans, 3 trucks to be stored on the property, as well as necessary equipment that's used for the lawn-care service. Roughly their hours of operation are Monday to Friday, 6:30 to 4 p.m. And about 17 to 20 employees would take the company vehicles to operate their business at the client's properties to maintain them. Staff recommended approval of the special use permit with 14 conditions, of which conditions 2 and 3 would require them to bring in the pole buildings to commercial building code, as well as submit a site development permit or receive a site development permit to bring in a parking lot with the impervious surface into compliance. No objectors were present. However, the health department did object with concern for the septic field, and they are working with the applicants to bring the business operations into compliance with health department codes. The applicants at the hearing did show concern for the landscaping or the screening of this outdoor storage area in the parking lot due to their surrounding areas being A1 districts. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Pursuant to the zoning ordinance, basically anytime there's parking lot or outdoor storage, we require screening along property lines or around the outdoor storage area, and that's actually part of condition number 4, I believe, is to require that. So it's along the perimeter of the parking lot, that western and southern portion. Pretty much they can use a fence, wall, dense hedge, a combination of features, so landscaping, just basically to soften the appearance of a parking lot and outdoor storage within the area.
I have a question on condition 14. It says that cannot store chemicals within 200 feet of a portable water supply. I think they should be potable. Potable is drinking water, so maybe it's piping.
I believe you are correct. I think that is a mistyping.
Does anybody else on the committee have anything? Huh? Well, really quick, we do have two people who signed up who, to speak about this. Lori Blackwell. Oh, do you want to speak to this?
No, the only thing that we had talked about that Ms. Kenny brought up was that regarding the fence.
Can you turn the microphone just so everybody can hear you? Try to hit the speak button on the bottom. I can't figure out.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that we wanted to add into, also, yes, we have been in, I've been reached out to the health department. Their concern was about the septic field, and we've been in touch with them and working on that. They have not gotten back to me yet, but regarding the fence, all of our neighbors to the west it's entirely farm field. I don't know if you guys have aerial views. We have no residential neighbors to the west for miles. So that's what our question was. I mean, we could put up and would put up a fence if that's the finding. Hedges aren't really a good idea because any vegetation we've had have been, with the pesticides from the farm fields. So it would have to be a fence. And then from the south side, what is being recommended is, again, we have neighbors to the south, but the business is so far back on the property that it's almost not visible from the street. It is, but not even.
Are you willing, you said you're willing to put a fence in the whole area?
If that's what's found, yes, that's what the recommendation, I believe, was on the west and south border, yeah.
Make a motion?
All right, there's been a motion to approve zoning case ZC 19-003.
I will second, but I want to clarify, she
Okay, there's a
needs
second. Go ahead.
the conditions, with the conditions.
What's the conditions?
Then I said-
So the motion is to approve with existing conditions that were listed. Does anybody on the committee have any other comments before we vote? All right, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a zoning map amendment for case ZC-18-083, which is a map amendment from R2 to C2 in New Lenox Township, commonly known as vacant property on South Harbor Road in Mokina, Illinois. I don't know what you mean. If you want to give us a quick rundown on this?
Sure. So the applicant is requesting to have this case tabled until the May land use meeting.
Yeah, I believe that the applicant is not present today, so there are people here who want to speak. If you signed up to speak on this, I don't know if you want to speak now or come back next month when we're going to actually take action on it. So I'll give you the option now to speak since you came and signed up. The first one is Courtney Cobb. Courtney Cobb.
I'm opposed to the rezone. One of the things, I live in that neighborhood that's to the southeast corner of it, so my backyard would look at the side of the property. And I've emailed and called, and so have over 30 of my neighbors, to say that they're against it going from R2 to C2. A couple things that we touched on last week was just all the different information all the way from 2015 to 2016, looking at the property with the applicant, and how they had said to create 2 single-family residential lots when the property was split, and as well as that it was listed on a real estate website, and the real estate website already had it rezoned to commercial, and it had been on the website since last May, which was concerning for us if it's only doing the map amendment and submitting it in October. One of the things we noticed since we were here last week was that the pricing on the real estate changed. It still says commercial, however, it more than tripled in price in what they're asking for it now, which with all these plans that they've put into action, the proposed plans, it seems strange that they're going to sell the property and that those proposed plans wouldn't necessarily be the case, that it's just to change it from R2 to C2. And one thing we talked about too last week was the applicant brought up that one of the businesses is green, white, and black. One of the concerned citizens at the April 4th meeting brought up the proximity of a Starbucks. There are 3 Starbucks under 4 miles away from our location. Our thought is, how many more Starbucks can we possibly need in a rural neighborhood? The other thing that we were looking at were the properties in the area, since we're in the village of New Lenox Township, the different properties that already exist and are vacant. There's on the website for New Lenox Village 39 vacant commercial properties and 43 vacant commercial sites. So what that just made us see is that there's already a lot of sites that are vacant, so we don't want this to be rezoned and just sit there vacant for no reason. We see the role of office or retail space as it should meet a community need. Currently, our community's need is easily met with the retail commercial opportunities on Route 30, Lincoln Highway, which is less than 4 miles away. Our township has a 2018 comprehensive plan in New Lenox that will be encouraging commercial in designated areas. In your plan, in the big giant packet, it states 8 land use designations, and where we live, even though there is some commercial, it has it all marked as yellow for single-family residential. So they're not looking to make it commercial in that rural neighborhood. They're choosing designated spots. What we feel is because the infrastructure can handle it, and being that we don't have sidewalks, trails, anything like that, even outdoor lighting, we find it to be a very big safety concern, in that we do not think that the R2, C2 would be in the best interest for us, or even for the New Lenox Comprehensive Plan.
Your review's been really quick.
Thank you.
That's it.
I appreciate that. It's my understanding, I just learned that this case is going to be continued over because the applicant is not present today. I would ask that, and I do appreciate that applicant's chairman as well, have to speak, that comments probably hold off until the applicant is here, because the applicant himself to address each of the concerns as they come forward.
All right.
Just a suggestion.
Okay, yeah. So.
I hear what he said, so.
We cannot hear what he's saying.
This is Matt Guzman. He's from the state's attorney's office. He recommended that we hold off on the public comment until the applicant is present so they can answer any questions or concerns. Jim, really quick.
Yeah, I don't want to be argumentative, man. You're an attorney, I'm not. The applicant certainly has the ability to be at this meeting.
Right.
People take the time to come here, and very often public comment is given without the applicant present because they choose not to be present. I understand he was present at the planning and zoning meeting a couple weeks ago. He chose to go there, but he's not choosing to come to this committee. I think you should let public comment take place, and I think you should vote on this. I say vote to move it forward to the full county board, where the applicant will have ample time to answer anything. So, Matt, I don't want to be disagreeable with you, but people showed up, and I think that we give them the opportunity.
I just wanted to give everybody, since they came out here, the opportunity. We're okay to do that, right, legally?
Yeah, it's fine legally with 2 things. It's my understanding this is the medical reason why this person is not here. So it's not like he chose not to be here.
And you hit this before,
I'm sorry. Just want to make sure everybody in the audience can hear me, but this was my understanding a medical reason. So there was not a choice that he was not going to be present. Second, without the applicant being present, I'm sure Ms. Todd and others that are in the audience that have concerns and questions would like to have them addressed. It's not going to happen today without the applicant being present. That was my only suggestion. But certainly it's your prerogative if you want to have the opportunity to speak, that can happen.
Yeah. Mike?
Yeah, Tyler, this is my district, and I'm opposed to this, but I think people come to speak, they're not necessarily, all of their stuff is just a question. They want to make statements about how it's going to affect their lives. They're here to speak to you, not necessarily to the applicant. We need you guys to hear it.
Which is why I wanted to give them the opportunity, since they drove all the way out here.
I agree.
Yeah, I just, and then, I mean, we can make a decision on what we're gonna do going forward. I just want to make sure that we're legally okay. And but since you guys did, everybody came out here to speak to us, I have no problem going forward with listening to public comment. So, thank you. Next up we have, and if I butcher anybody's name, I do apologize.
Courtney, was that the New Lenox City or Township plan, the comprehensive plan?
That's the village.
Next up we have Eldon. I'm not even going to try because it would be insulting. I don't want to do that to you. I mean, just kind of remind everybody, our board rules allow for about 3 minutes of public comment. So if you get close to 3 minutes, I'll kind of give you
Play the music?
Yeah, I'll start to play it out.
All right, my name is Eldon, E-L-D-O-N, Urbikas, U-R-B-I-K-A-S. I live at 18326 South Parker Road. Mr. Guzman, as long as you're here, I'd like to address you quickly.
I address all.
Okay.
Yeah, all comments
sorry.
are, you're talking to us, not
Okay,
them.
since he's here, and I'll bring this up, I would suggest that an investigation be started into the sale and representation of this property, because there are a lot of things that are put out there that can be easily found, public domain on the internet, and stuff that has been put out to real estate listings that I believe violate the law. Also, maybe some issue with real estate taxes based on a misrepresentation and the flip-flopping of ownership of the property. So I'll leave that alone now. Okay, again, I live on Parker Road. There's other issues I'd like to talk about, but first, the most important thing I believe is the safety issue on Parker Road. The speed limit's 45 miles an hour on Parker. The speed limit on 6 is 55. The report calls for, if approved, the driveway for this property, there's no access to Route 6, so the driveway would have to be on Parker Road as far north as possible, which would abut a residential property next door. Because of the fact that there is only one entrance and egress point, it's a safety issue as far as traffic during rush hour. Anybody who would be pulling out, if it is rezoned commercial, the traffic exiting that would attempt to go south on Parker Road could block northbound Parker Road, and the traffic exiting to go north on Parker Road would be subject to traffic coming around the corner from westbound 6 onto Parker. I believe this is a very dangerous situation. 6 was redone in the past year and it cost them several $1 million. They didn't put right turn lanes in. The 2040 plan calls for 6 to become 4 lanes. At that time, maybe this would be a viable commercial area, but I sincerely doubt it. One more thing, if the property is rezoned to C2, it allows for residential on the 2nd floor over commercial, which would be against the density of the area. The properties in the area are all usually a minimum of 1 acre, with many of the properties being 5, 10, and 20 acres. It is not suburban in any sense of the word. It is more rural. If you did a 3-mile radius, which is called for in the plan, you would see that the majority of the property is estate property or active agricultural, nurseries, forest preserve. So this particular project would not be along the lines of what we have now. Okay? There's other issues, but I will return for the next meeting and address those on that day.
Thank you.
If you have any questions for me, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have George Gaff, I believe is.
Bail me out here. Oh, sorry, sir.
Relax, you'll be fine. Just relax.
Okay.
No, you're on the microphone.
Well, hey, thank you, board, for continuing this, for going forward for this, as we all showed up here. The lawyer said that the gentleman who was trying to get it rezoned, he's got a medical thing this week. Is that what he said?
That's fine.
Does he have a doctor's statement or anything stating to that fact, or are we just supposed to say, this is the truth? I didn't catch a cold within a week, so it just seems a little strange to me. A little history on this property. This property at one time was a fruit stand. A number of years ago when I was growing up, then they got old. And they sold it to another gentleman who made a fruit stand out of it. He operated for a number of years, and then, so there was a strange fire there. Don't know what happened. I don't know if they ever find out what did happen to it. He sold the property. Everybody in the area assumed, which was our fault, that another fruit stand or somebody would do the same thing there. Well, all of a sudden we got a liquor store. We don't want a liquor store there, but the liquor store is there, so okay, it's there. But that's what we woke up. Other people tried to sell a piece of property, others of mine, and they sold a piece of property that was going to be developed into a asphalt plant. We shot that down. Now this gentleman here who comes in, and he wants to put a mini mart in here. We don't need another mini mart. And he was here last week, and he said, well, he just tried to improve the community. If he really wanted to know if he wanted to do something for the community, he would have done what this young lady just did and went around to some of the community people and said, do we want it or not? He didn't do any of that. He lied to the person that he sold the adjacent property to and said he was not going to ever develop it into this. So he lied to that gentleman. He's lied to the community about his reasons for putting it in here. And one thing, he's got a retention pond. Well, what is a retention pond going to do to the person that he sold the property to? Is that going to help or hinder it? I don't think he's even looked into that. So we don't want this thing to go forward. He should be here. I hope you vote on it today. He's not here. I don't know why, but he should be here.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Dawn Hallwell.
Hi, my name is Dawn Howell. I live at 18615 Parker Road. I'm 2 parcels north of the corner. So the rear of this property wraps around my neighbor's house, which is 18635, and abuts to the side of our home and directly in front of our barn. To the front of the parcel, they have 328 feet of frontage. My neighbor has 80 feet. We have approximately 165 feet. So the driveway entrance for the commercial, they're saying to have it as far north on Parker as possible. So it could possibly be 200 feet within our driveway. So given the driveway access, I mean, obviously we have problems with traffic congestion, difficult to access residential driveways and subdivisions. We also have concerns over, he was speaking of drive-through, safety, lighting, noise, loss of trees and privacy. I mean, it's going to significantly devalue our house. Also, it would ruin the character of our residential setting. And lastly, wouldn't it set a precedent for future developers to build more commercial on Parker and 6? That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Next we have Sue Cook.
Thank you. I think my neighbors have covered all of my concerns.
All right, thank you. Well, then, Mike, you ZC-18-083. Yes, Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the committee to vote no. As I said, I'm opposed to this. They came out today. You understand where they're at? I'm asking you guys to vote.
Let's go. Matt, you're going to get a question here.
Could you explain to me what our obligation on the board is to vote or not vote when someone has asked for it to be tabled and they can't appear? Is there any obligation on us?
You can abstain, you can vote. Was there a request to make a table yet?
Yes, the applicant requested, made a request to staff for us to table it.
You're not obligated to table.
All right. Does that answer your question? Jim?
I think it would be more appropriate for the committee to pass it along. It can be tabled either at executive committee or at the county board. But generally, I would pass it out of this committee because there is other opportunity to table it. So I would ask this committee to move it forward, at least to the executive committee, and the applicant would have time to ask theirs. And even when according to the full county board, it can be tabled there. So I would request the committee to move it along.
So does anybody on the committee want to make a motion? Oh, Julie?
Yes, I just wanted to mention, in paragraph 3, it says that, pulled certain verbiage out of here, it says that the plan is not in conformance with the county's adopted codes and ordinances. It also states that the parcel is an irregular shape, which forces the parking and building onto a roughly 30,000 square foot area. So, reading this documentation, I think that is a valid concern regarding the rezoning of this property.
Julie, I have a question for you. In the packet, it says that the Village New Lenox had no objections, and there's a letter saying to that. Was there any information about this comprehensive plan? Did they go over that at all, about the zoning that they had?
No, so they didn't speak to that specifically. They voted to not object to the zoning case, so not necessarily that they are in support of, but they just voted to not object to it. It's not in conformance with their comprehensive plan, which calls for residential, as Ms. Kopp said. But they're requiring the applicant to enter into a pre-annexation agreement with them, so it would seem that they're not objecting to commercial being there.
Make a motion to approve, so we can vote on it.
All right, there's one motion to approve. Is there a second? So second then, JP?
Yeah, I'm looking at this.
Can you turn on your mic?
Sorry I'm late. I never know if I should turn on my mic or if you're going to turn me on from over there.
I can't figure out how to get this thing working.
I'm looking at the picture, and I was looking at this when I was at home, and being a fairly new realtor, I get really alarmed when I see these electrical things. Not from the standpoint that I'd be worried about living near them, but buyers of housing get alarmed about living near them. And I understand this is zoned residential, and I wouldn't think that a developer would want to put houses that close to it. And maybe I'm just looking at this a little wrong. Maybe the wires are further over. It's kind of hard to tell from the picture. But I mean, I'm looking at the one photo 3 view of the parcel looking east across Parker Road. I'm guessing I'm looking at the parcel, and you see those big high tension wires. Homeowners don't generally want to live near those. So I find it odd that this was zoned residential to begin with. Am I looking at this the right way?
If you look at photo 2, you
Uh-huh.
can see there's a home very close to those wires.
Oh, I'm not going to say that some people don't build next to them. I'm just saying in general, people don't like it. Yeah, it just seemed odd to me that it was zoned residential to begin with, that's all. And maybe it wasn't always residential, or maybe those power lines got put there and they just, yeah, the power lines came after the fact or something. And it's always really hard to tell, even from the photos, how close things are. But I know I get comments when people look at photos of properties that are listed, if they can see those lines anywhere behind the photo, you know, like behind the house, you can't really judge how close it is. And so people won't even go look at a house like that because they see the lines in the picture. And it might be a quarter of a mile, half a mile away. So, I don't know, just was odd to me that it was zoned residential to begin with.
Does anybody else on
Yeah, I have another question. The gentleman talked about a liquor store, and on here I see a C1 property and voter number 8. Is that still the liquor store? And that's the one across the street?
Correct, yes.
Anything else? All right, so there's a motion on the floor and it's been seconded, so we'll do a roll call.
Tyler Markham,
Yes.
Mark Ferry,
Yes.
Amanda Cook,
No.
Rachel Ventura,
No.
Jacqueline Trainier,
Sorry, I read a lot of this at home, but I just got in here and I missed some of the testimony, so.
And this vote is just to pass it on to the...
Yeah, so it'll move forward, and if we want to table it, then we can table it.
I'll vote yes to move forward, thank you.
and Tom Weigel.
No.
That should not pass, correct? All right, so they'll come out of committee. So there's no recommendation from our committee. Moving on to other business, we have number 1, zoning case ZC-18-059, which was a special use permit for ancillary liquor in Lockbourne Township, currently known as vacant property on South Weber Road, which was placed on the table at our last meeting. So we'll need a motion to remove it from the table. Moved and seconded, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion has carried. So this is the Seagulls did sign up to speak to it if we have questions for them. It is my understanding that they are comfortable with us voting on this because we are running out of time because they have a 6-month window for us to approve it, which I believe expires in June. So
Make a motion to approve.
it's been moved and seconded. Does anybody have any questions or comments, JP?
Yeah, it says ancillary liquor service. Is this the agritourism thing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll get to this later, but depending on conversations with the state's attorney, we may table it at our next meeting so we can bring the special use request and the liquor license at the same meeting. Yes. Yeah, that's correct. Liquor license go through executive, but there's been an understanding that they want to bring them at the same meeting. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion has carried. Next up, we have zoning case ZC-18-082, which is Lenny's Food and Fuel on Harlem Avenue, commonly known as 19420 South Harlem Avenue, Frankfort, Illinois. This was placed on the table at our last meeting. It's been moved to remove it from the table and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has carried, so we have removed it from the table. So I don't know if staff wants to give us a rundown or if any committee members have any comments. JP?
Just wanted to clarify, his special use permit request is for packaged liquor sales. Is that just the beer and wine thing, or this is beer, wine, and hard liquor?
This would be under the gas station because they're a separate class, I believe.
Oh, yeah, that's right, they have their own little party in a bottle.
So, committee members, do you have anything before I let people who signed up speak? All right, I'm gonna, if you signed up to speak, I'll have you come down. The first person we have is Cass Winblood?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sorry. Do you want to say anything or just questions?
Attorney for the applicant, I didn't know if you wanted to take your objection.
I'm sorry.
Have me speak some. Cass Wendland, attorney for the applicant, 339 Alon Drive, Illinois. There is no planning reason to turn this down. There's no legal reason to turn it down. Your staff recommended in favor. The PCC recommended in favor of it. So if there is a reason to turn it down, it's going to be complaints from the neighbors about what might be there and what might happen. And so there being no planning reason, there being no legal reason, the only reason can be that conjecture or retribution. That's all. The only other reasons to turn it down. There are no planning or legal reasons. That's all.
Thank you. Next up, we have Linda Arnold.
Good morning. My name is Linda Arnold. I live at 7260 West Lakeside Drive. Just a gentle reminder that we were here in January. There were several speakers that objected to it. The neighbors still object to it. Nothing has changed. A gentle reminder that the Will County Board objected the special use permit for a liquor license March 21st, 2013. Nothing has changed. We're still concerned about the traffic, the safety, the morals, the property values of the area. We are also concerned about congestion in the area. These are residential streets that are being used for the traffic, for the truck deliveries, the additional truck deliveries that would be happening with the addition of the liquor sales, the beer and wine sales. We're concerned about the congestion in the parking lot, which would spill out into the residential area. Actually, the first write-up from October of 2012, when it was first applied, the write-up does state that they're concerned about congestion in the parking lot. This development can handle another retail sale. We are asking, do not cause more harm to the residential area, to the neighbors, to the traffic safety, and the morals and the property values. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sandra Brennan.
Thank you. My name is Sandy Rennie. Here we are again. As Linda just pointed out, you've heard the many speeches that our residents came forward with, and those concerns over the years haven't gone away. Since the station was even put up, the traffic has been kind of crazy, if you will. I drive my grandchildren to school. There's 4 cars ahead of me just to get out on the street, to get to their house, to do this before school, things like that. So the traffic is really a major concern with the safety of our community members. But the other big issue here, and this was it's interesting because this also came, as you know, to the Tinley Park for their annexation issue. And at that time, Mr. McHenry said, oh, there's no problems with anything. Yet, according to the sheriff's report that you all have, the crime has been unbelievable with thefts and so forth. And so there is a problem. And these are just within the last 2 years of the station being built. And so we live with the station. I'm not saying that that's a thing of the past. but we don't have to increase the traffic. We don't have to take in the crime that might spill into our neighborhoods and affect our children. And I hope that all of you can understand where we're coming from. This is not just a likely thing that we take, we've been fighting this, and the reasons we're fighting it as a community, if you will, given the number of people have written to our representatives, is because of those issues of crime and safety. So it's a major concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Andy Tess.
Good morning. My name is Andy Tess, and I live at 7319 194th Street, Tinley Park. I'd just like to make a few statements and a rebuttal to some of the things that were said by petitioner during the last board meeting. The petitioner had indicated that the land was always supposed to be a gas station, and he's right. But it was zoned, and it could have been a daycare center, it could have been a church, it could have been a park also. Originally, petitioner entered into a contract to purchase the property contingent upon the fact that he received 4 special use permits. That was liquor, a drive-through, a car wash, and zoning. The first county board meeting rejected all 4 on the basis that they did not meet the MAP amendment requirements for the special use permits. Petitioner, knowing that he wasn't going to get the special use permits, bought the property anyway. So he knew he wasn't getting any additional businesses there. He, about a year later, within that last year, he went to the state of Illinois, petitioned the state of Illinois for a gaming license as a truck stop. The property that he built was similar to the property, identical to the property on 191st and 88th, which is by state identification truck stop. Petitioner then went before the county board and again requested this 4 special use permits, and the county board, 3 of the 4, he omitted liquor. The county board rejected the car wash, rejected the drive-through on the basis that it didn't meet the MAP requirements, and approved the zoning. Petitioner then sued the county board, and in particular a senior member, because the petitioner felt that undue pressure was exerted upon the 3 members. Now, I wasn't at the court hearing, but I'm going by what was reported in the Daily Southtown. The judge did rule in the petitioner's favor. He had indicated that he believed undue pressure was exerted. However, the board members in their testimony indicated they were planning on voting in favor, but changed their minds after the caucus. Yet they testified, quotes, not influenced at all, not the case of influence, they simply changed their votes. The Frankfurt Road Commissioner testimony was determined by the judge for lack convincing credibility. And I don't know who would better know about traffic and traffic issues other than the local county road commissioner who's been there for years. Petitioner brought an expert who indicated petitioner's land value would be a substantial loss of value. Well, he knew that before he bought the property. So I don't know why that was the case. He bought the property at bargain basement pricing, and I like to draw parallels. It's like buying a car without an engine, and then you buy the car knowing it doesn't have an engine, and then sue the owner because it doesn't have an engine. Petitioner also stated, and just I don't understand why we're here, petitioner stated that as part of his court testimony, quoting the Southtown, his attorney said quotes, liquor sales or video gaming, which McCurney has at his other locations, are not part of this plan. What are we doing here? This is all taken from the Daily Southtown. Again, I wasn't there. Only 2 of the 5 property owners that surround the property were allowed to testify, nor none of the dozens of other homeowners around those 5 properties. Now, I do understand we have circulated a petition amongst the 30 or 40 homes that surround the property, and without exception, they all say the use of their property has been diminished. They see the noise, they see the traffic, they're aware of the crime. For the first 10, 12 years I lived there, nothing happened. All of a sudden, within the last 3 years, we have incidences with police. There was an armed robbery. There was an illegal entry within a half a block. 2 doors away from the property, 2 trucks were put up on blocks and all 4 tires stolen. I don't think that would have happened had that been the daycare center on that corner. During the last public comment, the petitioner said that all the communities, both Mokina, Frankfurt, Tinley, Matson, everybody around them had approved the request for liquor. Yet I went online through October of last year. I couldn't find a mention of anything, with the exception of 2 mentions in Mokina, both dealing with the other locations that he has, one adding a fueling station and the other 4 additional outbuildings. Nothing, however, regarding any of the community's board minutes regarding an approval of a liquor license at this location. Petitioner indicated he had thousands of people he serviced daily. And here's what I want you to picture. 1,000 people represents about 750 to 1,000 cars a day going down 2 streets, your streets. That's 5,000 to 7,000 cars a week. How would that disrupt your enjoyment of your property, the safety, the noise? Those are the MAP criteria.
Just really quick, we do allow for 3 minutes. So
Okay, 2 questions I would ask of yourselves. Are the petitions from the dozens of homeowners who own property surrounding this business more or less important than the people who don't live there who reportedly want sex liquor sold at this location? And does this special use permit meet the MAP criteria of the health, use, enjoyment, and of the property owners who have petitioned the board saying no more, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a copy of the South Suburban paper as well as the individual board minutes from the various boards who have originally rejected the liquor request.
Thank you. Committee members, do you have anything that you'd like to
I do want to remind the committee, I personally have received over a dozen emails opposed to this liquor special use. Despite there being a sign in the window of this establishment for at least 8 weeks now, telling people if they want liquor at this establishment to email me with my email address. I didn't put it up, but it's there. I've only received 1 in that time of residents saying that they would like to have liquor available at that location. So I just want to put that on record and remind everybody about it.
We're going to go to Tom and JD.
This used to be my district several years ago when Mikey started this program to build his gas station. I think now there's an overabundance of liquor stores in the area. We don't need additional liquor stores. I think it's saturating the area and some of them are necessary. So I'm going to be voting no.
JD?
This is just a vote on the special use. We cannot give him a liquor license. That's done at executive committee. That's my understanding.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Committee members, anything else before I go to other board members?
I will just say that 2 months ago, I had listened to both sides of it, and I said that if nothing had changed or came forward, that based on the enjoyment of the property, the safety, and to Tom's point, we have a report here about the density of alcohol and how it creates harm in those areas that I would be voting no, so I plan to still vote no since nothing has changed.
Jim?
I'll be careful on anybody use sort of excessive pressure. But I would, that's maybe just being a little bit of a smart aleck, I guess. I would ask the committee to vote no. Special use, one of the criteria is that does not negatively affect adjoining or area property values. I do believe a liquor license there would affect in a negative way the property values. There's a number of liquor licenses in the area. Matter of fact, it has the largest concentration of liquor licenses for unincorporated Will County. There's plenty of opportunity for folks to buy liquor in that area if they choose. It is just as convenient as going to this particular gas station. I'd also like to point out that the county, a number of years ago, did not issue liquor licenses to gas stations. Well, we were sued. It was a recommendation of the state's attorney's office to create another classification for liquor licenses for gas stations. I know we're looking at special use, but I think there's an assumption that if you give a special use that that maybe you're setting up or creating a lawsuit to deny a liquor license or expanding that category. The idea is that we would, in the suit to settlement laws, we would issue the licenses, we would do a 7 or 8, and that would be it. And as time went on, we would just eliminate them. That was the thought process of prior board, and I think it was probably the correct one. Even though I know things have changed, and the whole problem is gas stations aren't gas stations, but yet we're treating them like gas stations, right? Which brings me to another issue. This county made a decision to opt out of video gambling in unincorporated Will County. And you would think that's it. There's no exceptions. The exception is a truck stop with a liquor license does not come to the local jurisdiction. They go right to the state of Illinois. So when you issue a special use for a liquor license, you're also giving them the ability then to go to the state and introduce video gambling where we have prohibited. So there is another effect to that. So I think that people should be, board members should at least be aware of, you're creating more than just a liquor license. You are basically going against the policy of Will County to opt out of video gambling on a local basis. The other, let's see if I want to make any other points. We turned this down. Yeah. Let me also say, the applicant went to court on the other special uses, but he left this one out. Maybe he didn't feel the court would grant it to him, but he certainly had the opportunity to challenge the board's decision of a number of years ago. He chose not to. I personally disagreed with the judge's decision, but it is what it is. So here again, respectfully, I would ask the committee to give a recommendation of denial as it goes forward. I think would be the more appropriate thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Other board members have anything to say? Does anybody on the committee wish to make a motion at this time? What, is there a motion to send it to approve?
Need a motion to approve so we can vote
yes
or no.
I'm sorry. So your motion is to approve the special use permit.
Yes.
Is there a second? Been moved and seconded. We'll do a roll call.
Tyler Markham.
Yes.
Mark Ferry.
No.
Amanda Cook.
No.
Jacqueline Trainier.
Yes.
Rachel Ventura.
No.
Tom Weigel.
No.
All right, so that motion does not carry. Next up on our agenda is number 3. It's, let me find myself, zoning case CC-18-088. This is a special use permit for a major amendment to a plan unit development in Frankfort Township, commonly known as vacant lot 24 and 19617, which is lot 25 on South Edinburgh Court in Frankfort, Illinois. You want to give us a rundown really quick?
Thank you, and I just have a couple of images that I'm going to share through this. So this case was tabled at our last month's meeting at the request of the applicant. So this is the first time that we're actually going through this case. As you said, it takes place in Frankfort Township and as part of the Highland Ridge South PUD. We're looking specifically at lots 24 and 25. Those parcels are zoned R6 or multifamily. And under the original PUD, they were slated for a 3-story fully brick multifamily building that had 6 units in there. The applicant is looking to change that for lots 24 and 25, and therefore has to go through the special use permit process in order to make this major amendment to the PUD. So the applicant would like to change the architectural design of the building that was originally approved and increase the density just on lot 24 from a 6-unit building to an 8-unit building. The applicant has some variances that are requested as part of this in order to accommodate these structures, and you saw those in your charts in the staff report. Staff recommended denial of the request based upon the architectural design of the structures. Staff had no issue with that slight increase in density by 2 units. Staff did provide 9 suggested conditions for the commission if they had so chosen to approve it, and those are outlined in your staff report as well. Tinley Park objected to this request. Again, they were not in support of the design of the structures. No other agencies objected. At the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting in March, there were 3 objectors present who again also took issue with the design. And staff received 2 additional email objections which were provided in the packet, and then I've received 2 more which were handed out to you today. Those were not in your packet. The Planning and Zoning Commission back in March voted to deny the request by a vote of 3 to 4, and the Commission again took issue with the design of the structures. So based upon the comments that were received at the March public hearing, the applicant has updated his design proposals, and those were provided to you in your packet. They were right at the front end, so I'm going to walk through them a little here just to kind of go over it. So we have a view of the actual parcels in question themselves. So this is lot 26. So this is what was originally approved. This is the 3-unit, fully brick building that is in existence on lot 26. And just sort of a side view of it, you can see the garage in the background there. So these are the layouts that the applicant is proposing for lots 24 and 26. And you can see those variances that are requested as part of that. And this is the applicant's original proposal. So this is actually what went through at the March Planning and Zoning Commission, what was presented to them, and what staff, the Village of Tinley Park, the objectors, and the commission itself sort of took issue with the design of the structures. So this is the applicant's new updated proposal. So we have basically 2 options for each lot. So for the 6-unit building, which we're looking at right now, and I have a comparison of what the applicant's proposing as to what is currently in existence on lot 26 there. This is a brick and siding mix building. And then this is the second option for that 6-unit building, which is a fully brick building. And then we have on lot 24, which is the proposed 8-unit building, we have again a siding brick mix, and then a fully brick option. I think that's the last slide. Okay, and so if the committee decides to adopt one of these proposals that's been presented to you by the applicants, we can modify staff's recommended conditions. I've highlighted a couple in red, or I have red font actually, for some of them that would need to be altered or perhaps stay the same based upon those designs. And, yeah.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Nadine? Any others? Any questions? Jim?
I do have a question for staff, and maybe something the applicant can answer later, but certainly I objected also to what was originally put out there based on the architecture, and this didn't fit into the area, and certainly it wasn't a vision of the PUD that type of structure would be put into that PUD. But he has made some probably fairly substantial changes. But what I'd like to know is if staff knows, is Tinley Park giving comment on the latest? And if not, certainly I think we should send it over and also make an effort to distribute that to the people who live within the PUD currently. Because it's hard to make a decision without their input. They did give testimony at planning and zoning. They basically wanted to see masonry. They want to see a little different, some enhancements, architectural enhancements. That's what came out of planning and zoning. Some of that is, it appears some of that was done, but we still would kind of need comments. So I don't know. I'm specifically wondering if Tinley Park is giving comment or was submitted to Tinley Park for additional review. Do they know?
So Tinley Park has not seen these updated renderings.
Any members with questions?
Can you, so he switched the initial because it was denied or because of cost reasons? What was the reason for switching those renderings?
Between the updated renderings or?
Yeah, but on the picture on the left for 26, to zones 24 and 28, yeah, right there. So lot 26 versus 24, why did they make the change?
So the applicant does not want to follow what was originally approved for lot 26 because he states that the cost to construct that building is just not worth the return on that investment. That structure is 3 stories. It requires an elevator, which is very costly to put in. So the applicant has shrunk the building to 2 stories, which would not require an elevator. And then with these updated renderings, he's just showing, we can do a fully brick building, which would mirror the fully brick building on lot 26, or we could do a mix of siding and brick, which is basically mirroring what is the single-family residential. Most of the single-family homes within Highland Ridge South and then Highland Ridge to the north there, they are a mix of, brick on the first floor, siding on the second.
And the one that was approved at Tinley Park, had any response to that design?
I don't know what their comments were back from that original zoning case.
There are people who are objecting.
My question actually is about parking. Are these 2-bedroom units?
I believe so. I believe all the units are going to be 2 bedrooms. The applicant is proposing a garage to go with each building, and then also parking spaces.
I looked at here, and it looks like there would be enough for 2 cars per unit, plus a couple of guest spaces. I don't know what the parking is like in the area, but I've seen many communities that have had 2 parking spaces per unit in my own community. And let's just say it's not adequate, not even close to adequate, because generally what you'll have is you'll have 2 adults, responsible adults working that each have a car, and somewhere down the line, there will be another person living in that house that also has a car. And so now you're up to 3 cars per unit, and those are just the residents. That doesn't account for any guests or visitors. So my concern is actually more about parking than it is about the actual units. So if there's on-street parking,
There is on-street.
no brainer, but there is plenty.
There is on-site. There is street parking.
Very good.
And the applicant's meeting the zoning ordinance standard for what the ratio of parking that he's required to provide.
Yeah, sometimes I'm not sure we're up to snuff on the zoning requirements. Again, I'm going back to some stuff that was built in the 60s, 70s, early 80s, just not adequate parking. So, but if there's street parking, then they're probably fine. There's no street parking.
If I can make one other comment, I think you may I didn't make myself clear from the first time I spoke. This development was a PUD, planned unit development. And part of that is there are certain design criteria and architectural criteria. And the approval is based on that criteria. So the applicant is asking for that criteria to be changed. And I think that it's important for this committee to understand that it was approved based on a certain criteria that may not have been approved if you want to introduce something else. No, I don't think there's a problem with two-story building. So I think that could be relaxed within the PUD, but there was a certain architectural criteria also as part of that PUD that the staff would review. And I think the staff is saying it didn't meet that criteria, architectural criteria. So the applicant now has gone back to try to meet more of the PUD on the architectural criteria. Now, whether he's accomplished it or not, it's difficult for me to say. Certainly, it's a big improvement that he showed initially. That's why I asked about, feedback. I think that it should be sent out to the community, have them review it, but certainly Tinley Park should also review it with comment. And it doesn't mean that it can't be moved along, but comment from those who objected to the architectural criteria, I think do need to see the changes. So, anyways.
Okay, we did have a few people sign up to speak about this. So first up we have Lester Norris?
It'd be me.
All right, if you want to come on down.
Good morning. My name's Lester Sonaris. I'm a developer, and I'm also the president of the Homeowners Association. So I guess I got a double duty here. My question, he did make a lot of improvements from the first thing he showed us. I don't know about 8 units. It was originally planned in the PUD to be 6 units per building, condominiums. I don't know how the guy got away with the first building, and even the sidewalk's not even there. He got occupancy permits, so that's one question I got to bring up. Second question is on the parking. If anybody would take a ride there at about 6:30, 7 o'clock at night with the 6 units, you'll see there's quite a few cars and trucks parked along the front of the building, and they have garages too. So, we're kind of looking at that 8-unit thing. I don't know. Originally it was designed to be for 6. Another thing that brings to mind if he goes up with it, I know that the 6-unit one is just about what you can go with the height of a building in that area. With the 8-unit, I don't know. Its footprint's has to be bigger. Would it fit properly on a lot? the questions I would have for, you know, the builder. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Next up, we have Alex Tourlakes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I am actually the attorney for MCT Inc. They are the people that have come forward. Just a couple of quick things to go ahead and address. My client actually is a pretty savvy guy, and he has met with staff with regard to this building. He had heard what they had said with regard to the aesthetics of the initial plan. For what it's worth, I think the initial plan offering was horrible. He has since modified that, taking into consideration what folks have said regarding brickwork, things like that. He is aware of the conditions in the event this does get moved on to the full board, and he agrees 100% with them. So that he will make it a much more aesthetically pleasing property as far as that goes. There was, as I believe it was Janine, I believe it was Janine that mentioned it, there was no concern with regard to density or those things. I know we've talked about parking. The parking is what it is. It's 1.5 per unit. He meets it. Whether or not there's problems with the parking, yeah, there may be. But as of right now, that's the requirement, and he meets it fully. As far as the property next to it and it being a PUD, which I understand, part of what we have to look at, though, is this idea that it was designed as a PUD. However, it failed as a PUD because nobody continued to build because it wasn't feasible. The buildings he's putting on or proposing to put on now, while they've been cleaned up aesthetically, they do match better in the area of what's going on. He had provided me some information with regard, I mean, I'm up to speed on the case as far as that goes, but he had provided me some information regarding townhomes that were just 700 feet to the south that are 100, and I had photos if you need it, that are 100% side doors, not a brick on them, and it's 700 feet to the south of this property. So with regard to what he's done there, I believe that he has improved the aesthetics of it to address anyone's concerns, and I would ask that we pass it forward so that the full board can vote on it. Thank you.
Next up, we have, I believe it's Sherry or Cheryl. I'm sorry, again.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl Sedlak, and I'm a homeowner. I live on Braemar Lane, which is just right down the street from this proposed development. A couple points that I'd like to bring up is that the homes that we are building, or that are being built in that neighborhood, have a certain quality and standard that they're to be upheld to, which has been addressed. And we're just asking that this proposed development be upheld to those same kind of standards. In your comment about parking, and what Mr. Sonoris had to say, absolutely, there is not enough parking. I know it meets the requirements, but I'm telling you as a homeowner and in the neighborhood, it doesn't meet those needs for especially a multi-unit development. One of the things that I wanted to address and perhaps get answered is with the proposed developments that you're looking to do, in making them just two-story as opposed to the three-story building that's already existing, what are the sizes of the individual units going to be inside, square footage-wise? Just in that, right now, the current building that's there, the units that are within the building are about 1,300 square feet. If you're going to propose to put up these units that are going to be a story less, still take up about the same footprint, and one also now being 8 units, I don't know if my math's accurate, but you're talking about maybe individual units of less than 1,000 square foot each being 2-bedroom units. And to me, if these are going to be condos, and you're going to be looked to selling them, that's going to be dramatically less than what the original proposal had stated, that these condos could supposedly sell for around $180,000 a piece. And in the original proposal, it said that no new economic feasibility study needed to be done, and it had our current home prices being listed at selling between, I $226,000 to 180 or $285,000, and those factors are dramatically wrong. In the last 3 years, the most least amount home sold was $310,000, and with the most current newest home sold being $414,000, which is dramatically less than what he proposed originally. And the condos in the area that are similar to this type and style that he's proposing to be built, and looking at around just a little bit under 1,000 square feet, are only selling for around $80,000 to $100,000 per unit. So my questions are, and my concerns are, that this type of development he's looking to build doesn't match the quality and standards of our neighborhood, and he's already been misleading on his current market values, which just leads me to be concerned about what else is he being misleading upon.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have Katie Feast.
Hello, my name is Katie Tice. I live on Sophie Court, which is the next cul-de-sac over from this unit. I would just like to say that I am a builder, and I have just built a home in that subdivision. The facade of it has nothing, it looks nothing like these. The facade of it should have more stone. It should have, it just is not up to par for our neighborhood. I have also owned a condo building in my time, and I could not sell the condos. I have then had to rent them out, and my concern is that they are not rented out for to low-income families. So I hope this doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have, I can't read the handwriting, it starts with a C, so the last name looks like it was R-E-Z-U-Y. Sorry, I can't read your handwriting, my apologies.
Chad Resney. I also live on Braemar. So I think the petitioner's attorney mentioned something about that this project had initially failed. I don't know if anybody remembers a recession that we had right around the time that that unit was being built. That probably explains a lot of the reasons why the other two units identical to that one didn't get built. All right, so again, as my neighbors mentioned, all we're looking to do is have what was originally slated to be built there, which clearly is not the same structure. Obviously, if the builder wanted to propose something that was more in line with the original proposal, I think we would be a little bit more in agreement on it. But clearly, again, the rental issue comes up too. We don't know if the builder proposes to instate in any bylaws that these units can't be rented, even if it was the design of the original plan. We want to make sure that these units aren't allowed to be rented out, which is another concern that we have. If they are rented, my career involves dealing with rental properties, and it clearly shows that when somebody's renting a property, things can go south and they don't take the same pride in the property, and it will also invite some negative activity as far as who's staying in the property. We don't know who's staying in the property when it's being rented out. So again, all we're asking to do is to have this particular builder match what was originally designed. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else, Tom?
he brings up a point about renters. Does this community require that it may be condos or rental?
They are condos. They are condos. Rental, I don't know where that's coming from. This is good, it's a condominium for two lots.
If you're going to answer his question, so the microphone.
If I may, just to clarify, because there's a lot of misinformation regarding what people believe.
And if you could talk to any of them that sold, talk to that as well. That would be
Excuse
great.
me. Since you already had an opportunity to speak, I would like to get my opportunity. There was an incident in your lobby with police and ambulance. I wasn't able to sign in. There's me and one more
Can you go to
neighbor
the
that would
microphone
like
so we
to
can hear
speak.
you? Then I'll give you an opportunity.
I just want to answer the question regarding
Okay.
rentals, and if it comes up, that's all.
Okay. I mean, I'll let him answer after.
Hi, my name is Jessica Hamori. I live at 19611 South Sophie Court. This is in my backyard. I wasn't able to sign in. I was trying to say you guys had a legal incident in your lobby. So due to safety concerns, I had to stay outside to come in, so I didn't get the opportunity to sign in as well as everybody else. But I did want to make sure that my voice was heard and I did have an opportunity to speak. First of all, I would like to make clear to the board and the committee that the only way my husband and I found out about this project or the whole idea of this building was from my neighbors. I didn't receive any notification by mail or any other kind of way to even know that this was even an option or being talked about. I do have all the same concerns as my neighbors as far as the proposed look of the building, the property values of my home. I paid about $400,000 for my home, so it does concern me to have this type of property in. Parking is an issue for the current building that's there. One of the other issues is that just from the current existing building that's there, I'm experiencing a lot of property eyesore. Like, this is a condo building that currently exists. There's trampolines outside of the property. There's children's swing sets. There's swimming pools, picnic tables. I've never seen a condo or an apartment building where anything like that was permitted. So I'm also concerned with this being a much cheaper building, smaller units at cheaper prices, that we're going to get even more of what we're already getting. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. Since there was an incident downstairs, I guess, hope everybody's okay.
Tyler, there was a mentally ill person in the lobby who was, I think, helped out.
Okay, good.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey Brown. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's an important function of our democracy. I live at 7324 West Braemar Lane. These are all my neighbors. I'm also opposed to this proposal. I really go back and cite the staff recommendations, but I think we've heard that. So one other thing I wanted to point out is if we can go back to the slide that has the map of lots, 26 lots. 23 of them are single-family lots. And they're about half developed. I think there's 11 empty lots and 12 homes, and we're some of the homeowners here. So my concern also would be, that, from a county perspective, that they're successful in building this design apartment, if you would be successful in selling the last 11 lots in the subdivision, because the 11 empty lots that are left are primarily clustered around where they're proposing to build these apartment buildings. And then that would affect our potential future tax base, I would think, not being able to sell those lots. The homes that exist, the 11 that are built, are between $310,000 and $423,000. And they don't look like these apartment buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to let Mr. Twirley give that out and come back to you. Okay? Since there was a question asked of him, so I wanted to give him an opportunity to answer it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that opportunity. Just to clarify, just to clear it up. We just heard them referred to as apartments. These are not apartments. This is a condo. Both of these buildings are condo buildings, as is the existing condo. So any complaints about these apartments is derogatory towards apartment dwellers, number one, and number two, not accurate. These are condominium buildings that my client intends to sell. The problem is, based on what's in the area and everything else, aesthetically, he has cleaned it up. When I became aware of what he had initially submitted, I told him at that time, I said, Bill, this doesn't look good, come on. And he went and worked with staff again to go ahead and improve the aesthetics of it so that now we have brick and a little bit of siding. It matches the homes in the area are brick and a little bit of siding. As I say, there's a townhome, and again, not apartments, 700 feet south, that's full vinyl. So it looks okay to me, in my opinion, but again, he addressed the concerns of the aesthetic. The parking doesn't matter, he complies. As far as them being apartments or referred to as apartments, they're not apartments. Tinley Park's objection with regard to the letter they had sent was again along the lines of an aesthetically unpleasing building, which has been modified so that I would anticipate they would say it's okay. I don't have the letter directly in front of me, but I have read it, and I believe they were looking for 50% brick, which he did not have at the beginning. But we have more than that now because we have the first level completely brick. So again, I just want to clear up, and I appreciate the opportunity to do so. These are not apartments. These are not low-income housing. These are condominiums. It's a planned unit development. It's a condominium association, and that's what these buildings are. Thank you.
Have the condos all sold to individual residents?
They can't be sold until they're built. He has no pre-sales, you mean? Nothing like that.
So the condos aren't owned, they are rented?
Condos are owned.
Wait, that's what I'm asking, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For number
Condos are-
26, for lot number 26, there is an existing building.
Oh, I
yes?
can't address lot 26.
Can the staff know? if-
We don't own that. I believe all those units are occupied. A condominium is a fee simple ownership of a
Right,
particular
I-
unit.
They're all rented, they're all rented,
They
it's
have
on
in fact
file,
sold.
public record, they are rented.
That's what I'm asking. Does anyone
Yes.
know if those condos are
They're
indeed
rented.
sold as condos or
No.
if they are being rented as apartments?
They're being rented as apartments.
Julie?
Lot 26
They
is...
got a high turnover rate constantly.
Okay.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, Julie?
Get your
I
facts
have a question and also a comment, and it probably should be directed to staff. In their report, they indicate that there was a floodplain, a wetland, and then that wetland was removed, and that was in parcel 24. So my question is what is the process and how do they accomplish that? How do they remove a wetland? And then my comment is that looking at this diagram is very helpful, but and looking at it and you see the concentration and the environment of the development. We are experiencing in our neighborhoods, as our properties mature, more and more heavy water drainage. So homes that, even if my home is more natural, my property, yet we are now experiencing heavier water drainage, large patches of area where we can't even grow grass. It's literally nothing but mud now. That increasing water also is shifting concrete sidewalks. And so my question is, how do you ensure you've removed a wetland? And in addition to that, have you thought about what happens in 10 years, what happens in 15 years, or 20 years as the density increases? Because I know it's a problem for us in our neighborhoods. And we have the city come out and they don't have any answers, no solutions. And so that's my concern about this.
Janine, do you have an answer to that question?
If I
I
may,
believe I can help.
Hold on, it's sort of...
There we go, okay. So I spoke with our engineers about the wetland that shows present on lot 24. According to the subdivision staff report that was done back in 2005, according to our engineers present day, that wetland was removed prior to Highland Ridge South going in 2005. I don't know specifics, what occurred back then, but they're saying, no, yeah, it shows it, but it's been gone for a number of years there. And then in regards to these new structures that are proposed, our engineers looked at that as well, and they said that the detention pond that's currently there is sized appropriately for these structures for what was originally planned, and then the little bit of impervious surface that's going to be extra for these proposed ones.
Where is the pond?
The detention pond's not shown here. It's further west, it's sort of it's off the map. Right now, this is not the full subdivision, so.
Amanda?
Thank you. What size square foot are the units proposed to be inside the building?
You know, I was looking through my paperwork. Unfortunately, I don't have that information right here in front of me. I don't know what they're going to be. I do know they're 2-bedroom, 2-bath units. I believe the footprint of the building is actually, it's not the same footprint, I don't believe. I believe it's going to be larger, so I believe these units will be of a reasonable space for him to be able to go ahead and market them. He's not going to be able to sell them if they're too small.
Okay, I was just curious if you knew. I wanted to listen to the residents and what they had to say. This is my district, so I'm really familiar with the character of the neighborhood. I don't really live that far away. My big concern when I look at this map, truly parking is a concern of mine. So when you look adjacent to this, you have a lot of empty lots, as one of the residents said. I don't think people are going to want to pay probably $80,000 for a lot when there's a bunch of cars parked on the street all the time. I don't think that whoever owns those is going to have a very easy time either selling them or justifying building, roughly a $400,000 house. I've spent my time sitting here going on Zillow and kind of looking at what the fair market value is for these homes. I don't think, I'm guessing roughly 1,000 square foot condo unit doesn't necessarily fit in with the character of the neighborhood. Furthermore, even the rendering of full brick, it's very plain and it really does not fit the character of the homes. The homes have nice archways. You'll notice with the original building, there's some architectural interest with the brick, whereas the new unit, the new proposals are rather plain. So, I think I agree with the residents, and I thank you guys for coming out today and sharing your thoughts. And I tend to agree with you that this unit still, work needs to be done to make this fit into the character of the neighborhood. I also would say you might want to look again at making the footprint a little smaller to increase parking. I think that would really help if there was, let's say, 2 full spaces for every unit instead of 1.5, as most units are very likely to have at least 2 cars attached to them. So,
With regard to parking, on lot 24, there's going to be 8 garages and 10 spaces. With regard to lot 25, there's going to be 6 garages and 9 spaces. And again, I understand, I'm completely sympathetic because every morning when I drive to my office in Manhattan, I go through a little subdivision that when they built and approved, their parking regulations were horrible. You can't even drive down the street, it's going through a gauntlet. I understand what you're saying, but again, you can't penalize my client when he's complying fully with what the parking requirements are. In fact, he exceeds them. So to penalize him and say, well, he needs to put in more parking wouldn't be legal or really fair.
well, I'm not penalizing, I'm saying as a request, something that might make this building generally more attractive also would be making it slightly smaller. Again, the character of the neighborhood, if you're looking at $150,000, $160,000 units versus $400,000 homes, there's a fairly large disconnect there. So I think maybe we need to think of a way to make the units a little bit more in character with the rest of the subdivision.
I would say, and I understand what you're saying, and I hear that, and I can convey that to my client. My biggest concern is learning that apparently lot 26 is a 6-flat apartment building. I don't know if my client is aware of that, nor is he going to want to invest his money into an apartment building with these trampolines and pools and parking all over the streets. I don't believe my client is aware of this, so that's something I have to check with. But again, I can't address what's going on in lot 26. It's condominium buildings. I assume they were all condos. I didn't realize it was all rental.
JP?
And I just want to address the parking one more time. I would concur that people are not going to want to buy a lot across the street if people are parking on the street. And I get that the plan meets our code, but I'm just not confident that our code is the right number for this community, this area.
Jim, do you still have?
Yeah, I had a question to the attorney, and I got another statement based on what you said. You mentioned some surrounding areas, and you're absolutely right. A little bit south of there is townhouses that are totally, with no brick on them, that were built in the 1980s. But I might point out that this is a PUD, that those existed, and the architectural criteria goes to this PUD. what's down the road is irrelevant, because that was there before this PUD was done. So certainly a different standard was set for this particular development for the PUD. I think the other issue is, at least what I'm hearing from the neighbors, and this is also my district, by the way, and I happen to live right there, by the way, so I'm pretty familiar with the area, is that there is a perception within the community that these are not going to be condominiums, that they are meant to be rental units, and even though they're going to be developed as condominiums, the intention is that they will be all rented and not sold on the market for general public to buy. That's if I'm listening to the neighbors, and I guess you can nod or whatever, this is a concern they have that I think has to be addressed. The PUD, in my view, was not meant for rental units or apartment buildings or condominiums being disguised as apartment buildings or whatever. So I do think it's an issue for the community there that has to be addressed. Now you're addressing it here, saying, oh no, they're all for sale, we're going to put them up on the market.
Well, I can address that issue, I believe, to help you out with regard to that. Number one, as far as the PUD goes, when they did the PUD, again, note for the record, legally, these are all condominiums, they will be condominiums. Number two, when they did the PUD, they did not require in the declaration and bylaws that the properties have any brick on them whatsoever. It's an oversight by somebody, maybe so. But the idea that the declaration requires them to be brick, it does not. And the declaration is the governing document that we use to go ahead and build these condominiums that are there. As far as any perceptions with regard to, what they're going to be, I can't state it more clearly. They legally are condominiums, and they legally have to be condominiums. They can't be anything but that.
But the intention is that they never go on the market and they never are owner occupied.
I can tell you his intention is to sell them as it's been relayed to me, and that is what he has told me.
Okay.
I would challenge that.
Rachel?
Thank you for the wetland question, Julie. That was one of my concerns. As for the square footage, I have looked at this. It does not list the square footage per unit. However, it does give the proposed building specs for the land. So if I take that, and it's a two-story building, and I multiply out the length times width times 2, and divide by 8, the square footage is going to be less than 1,032 square feet.
I understand what you're saying, and as I had said earlier, if you'll recall, I said I would anticipate that they would be of a reasonable size for him to sell them. I don't know that answer.
I believe I can answer that.
I've got some more comments. So I did a little more research into building 26. 10 years ago, one of the units did sell for $228,000 for that unit. It is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath of 1,400 square feet. So that is considerably a lot larger with a very different architecture view from the outside.
So you found a condominium unit that sold there that is not, in fact, a rental unit? Is that what you're telling me?
I also found a rental unit, a number 2, that rents for $1,750 a month.
Okay.
So, there's 6 units there. My point is,
Well, I was led to believe that
10
every
years
unit.
ago,
Okay. Rachel?
Sorry. Go ahead.
10 years ago, when we were indeed in a recession, this building was built and at least one of those units sold. One of the other units is now being rented out. So there is provocation that a new unit could have problems selling, especially considering this is less square footage. If it's going to be a 2-bedroom, 2-bath at 1,000 square foot, it's going to be really hard to sell that unit. That is going to decrease property values in the area. So to Jim's point, as a PUD, if this is what they was expected to be developed there, then he should develop what is expected to be developed there and approved.
If I could go back again, what was the price of the unit that did sell? Because you did have pricing on that.
The unit that sold 10 years ago in 2009 was $228,000, and it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath for 1,400 square feet.
I can tell you, he is not looking for $230,000.
And that's the problem.
He'll be looking for less than that.
I think that's the point the residents are making, indeed, that you would lower the property values.
And then I feel like also the townhouses that are a little bit south of us, They have nothing to do whatsoever with Highland Ridge South as an identity. They have nothing to do with us. They're not a part of Highland Ridge South. They're nothing to do with us. That's still Frankfurt Square. We're specifically focused on our subdivision, which is Highland Ridge South, which is where they want to put the buildings.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have anything else new to add?
Well, I just have a comment. We talk about, we're bringing up property values from 4 or more years ago. We all know that a majority of people in Illinois are experiencing a decline in property values. So Rachel pulled up a selling price, and there is a possibility that that property value hasn't increased or has decreased. So I think, our priority here is safety. I know people who build on cul-de-sacs. They build on cul-de-sacs because of the tranquility, the safety for their kids to play, traffic, and the environment. And to me, it doesn't fit. It's not, I mean, if I built in a subdivision and I built my home on a cul-de-sac, this is not what I would expect. So
would you have built your home in a PUD with 3 gigantic lots that were zoned for condominiums, would be the question.
So, I'm gonna.
Very good, I appreciate your time, thank you.
Thank you. So, does anybody on the committee want to make a motion regarding this case? Yes, it has to come to the floor in a positive.
Motion to approve with a roll call vote.
There's been a motion.
I'll second it.
And a second. Please call the roll.
Tyler Markham.
No.
Mark Ferry.
No.
Amanda Cook.
no.
Jacqueline Trainier.
No.
Rachel Ventura.
No.
And Tom Weigel.
No.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Before we move on, I'm going to step out for a second, so I'm going to hand over the reins to Mark. Can we do that? Take a recess. I'm going to give everybody 5 minutes, and then we're going to continue. So stretch your legs.